Today,
Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
and I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health. Join us as we try out new things, or as we call it, weird shit, and have some fun along the way.
Today on the Wellness Empowerment Project, we have Lisa Anin. Lisa is a dedicated practitioner and teacher of Kundalini Yoga and meditation and a sound healer, as well as a spiritual guide. As a divorced woman, single mother, and a hearing loss advocate supporting the needs of her son, she's chosen to turn dark into light into her own life, embracing challenges as lessons and forever changing the narrative of her future and that of her family. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, Lisa. It's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Can you give us some background as to how you got into sound healing?
Oh, sure. I was on the spiritual path and I was learning about Kundalini Yoga. I became a teacher of Kundalini Yoga where actually I met Trish and we bonded during that training program and had a great experience. My youngest son was 7 at the time and he was having some difficulties hearing and we weren't sure what was going on. I became aware of sound healing that could help him through a different healer. As a mother, I wanted to help my son. His needs were very important to me. I became obsessed with learning about sound healing. I was already familiar with sound healing because in Kundalini Yoga, I had a gong and we utilized our voice mantra work as sound healing component. I took it to another level by learning about how can these sounds help my son. My son does wear hearing aids. He is considered deaf without them. I, as a mother, was understanding what sound I want to get into, and I chose the path of Tibetan bowls, ancient Tibetan bowls, as my medium.
Mediums for sound.
Initially, before I got into Tibetan bowls, I was exploring crystal bowls. I tried to understand for myself if I could build a set. It was during COVID, and I didn't have much information. I recognized that it wasn't the direction I wanted to go into. A couple of years prior to that, I had done a yoga class, or maybe it was a spiritual class at a local place, and the woman had Tibetan bowls. So I reached out to her. She was near my house and she showed me the bowls and how they work. What I love about Tibetan bowls is that I'm trained as a practitioner. So I play the bowls in a pattern on people's bodies or around their bodies. It connects with their chakra system, their 7 chakra energy centers. As a practitioner, I can manipulate and change the energy of that person based on their healing needs and requests. As a former accountant, that's my background. I grew up with a very logical mindset. I love the idea of the bowls had a pattern you play to have a particular result. And that just really spoke to me in a way that other forms of sound healing didn't have the same type of pattern. I wanted to be able to help people.
Can you back up a little bit and talk to us about what sound healing is and how it works?
Sure. Sound healing is called vibrational energy healing. Now, our bodies are all made of energy. Sometimes we hold on to things, physical energy, emotional energy. And when we hold on to those things, it could cause imbalance in our bodies and disharmony in our bodies and could cause our chakra system to be out of balance. When we're out of balance, the energy that flows through our body can't flow freely because one of the 7 chakras or all the 7 chakras, there's something that is off about them. Sound healing, utilizing the bowls, is a way to help balance the energy in someone's body to allow better movement, but also harmony in the body. I've read that when you have disharmony in the body, it causes disease, stress, and a whole other slew of things that are going on. We want the opportunity to allow our bodies and our spirit lies in our bodies to be light and free to go about its way and allow the flow of the divine to flow through you. And how can you do that? When you allow your body and your spirit to be at a higher vibration. The bowls is one way that you can do that.
Do the different chakras have different frequencies?
They do. And I have chakra bowls for each chakra that I place on them. By the way the bowl sounds, if there's an off sound, then I have the opportunity to alert that person that something is going on in that area. I'm not a doctor, but it's a way for me to educate that person about maybe getting something looked at further. I sing the bowls. So I have a bowl here. This is a Tibetan bowl. This is a heart bowl, which is tuned to D. When I play the bowl, I also sing the bowl. When I sing the bowl, go around the side with a striker. When the bowl is on the body, and especially if I have warm water in the bowl, it helps to deepen the connection. It's called singing the bowl. If I try to perform that on someone's body and I don't get a sound or it doesn't sound clear, then I know there's an area of excess energy that I need to work through to allow cleaner, crisper type of sound. That makes any sense. If I still struggle with something, that it's an area that has to be further looked at. That's basically with the bowls on the chakras on the bodies.
So for any that aren't aware of what the chakra system is, there are 7 chakras within our physical system, going all the way from our pelvis all the way up to the top of our head. Each chakra is essentially an energy center. There is a connection pathway of a lot of different energy centers. And Barbara Brennan actually did a lot of studies showing that a lot of energy centers connect to where our chakras are. Each chakra is associated with physical organs as well as emotion, which is also linked to a different color, but also a different frequency. So the color essentially equals the frequency, which is also in line with emotions. When we talk about emotions, we'll see that there is emotions with each chakra that show and demonstrate that it is functioning or flowing freely versus ones that are not or need a little more help and need a little more work. So with that explanation, Lisa, what happens when someone comes in and works with you in particular? Do you do a little assessment on the chakras before you begin?
I also want to mention, thank you for the description. I also want to mention there's seed mantras for each chakra energy center area. So if I know I want to work on a certain chakra to help that person, I can chant that mantra internally or out to universe aloud. Either way, it gets the same effect. The intent is there to help deepen and open up area. I wanted to just mention that as well, because during my sound healing training, I learned more about that specifics of it. And it was brilliant to me. Mantras became an area that I'm very interested in and love the whole idea of the mantras. I incorporate chanting in my practice every day, every client I'm chanting. To answer your question about when a client comes in, so I offer 2 different types of services. I offer a group session where I play the bowls on the floor and where the bowls only go on the body at one swell point. I play off to the side and I walk around people and play the instruments and pattern as well. When I have a private client, when I'm acting as a practitioner, usually in advance, I will inquire what brings someone through. How can I help them? How can I serve you today? So I have no idea in advance, but intuitive, once I talk to people, I know how to play the bowls. I know the type of verbiage that they need to help them with healing. I learned my voice is very powerful and I generate messages from the divine. I get downloads to help people with messaging to help them on their way. My sessions are an hour. The first few minutes or so, depending on what's going on, will be a discussion about background and anything in particular is going on, any kind of ailments, because if someone has a body part that is injured or some kind of disease or whatever it may be, I can place a bowl on there. It could help to soothe it. Once we go through that process, I usually get the client in a mother bowl. So mother bowl is a 22-inch Tibetan bowl, and I strike the bowl from the bottom, allows the energy to flow up through the feet, up to the crown, all the chakras up to the crown and back down again. Sometimes I also put a bowl on someone's head to have from both directions. So connection with Mother Earth, you're grounding into Mother Earth when you're standing in the bowl. Then also connecting with Father, Son, bowls on top of you. So it's this beautiful energy going back and forth. That's the first step. And we go on the table and the bowls are placed on and around a person depending on the treatment that we're doing. I instruct the person to relax and to breathe. We do a lot of conscious breathing in the beginning to help with setting the stage to get people comfortable to receive, because when people are still and calm, they can receive the benefits of the vibrations more effectively and efficiently. I usually utilize my crystal bowl to start with that, because that gets people in a higher vibration quicker. I say higher vibration, and the vibrations of the love, the letting go, connection with divine it has more of an angelic tune to it, and the frequencies help people quicker. You start there, and I go through some guided meditations of being present, letting go, and why we consciously breathe. All of it is to bring them back to the present moment. All that exists is in the present moment. Reminding people that is very key to my sessions. Once I feel we're in a good state with that, I start with tingshas. Tingshas is an instrument. I have them right here. So tingshas are utilized in Tibet for a couple of reasons. They're utilized by the monks to wake up for meditation, but they're also utilized for hearing loss. I mentioned earlier, my son has hearing loss. So when I learned about that little fact, I just knew that I was in the right place for myself and my family and doing what I need to be doing. I intuitively got there, So basically, the tingshas is a common sound I hear to know it's ending or starting and ending. Then I go about and I play my instruments. I also weave in some other things as appropriate: chimes, drums, gongs, chanting, like I mentioned before, because I like to have a nice session and experience. And I intuitively am guided to the other instruments. The Tibetan bowls, I play in a specific pattern depending on what I feel would help the person. Everything else is just intuitive. And then closing it is the tinctures as well. We talk about anything they may have experienced. Things also happen after the session. So maybe they would get messages afterwards, or they'll pay more attention to coincidences or things that come through their world. Nothing's a coincidence. So paying attention to those experiences, I encourage as well to make sense of what was just happening on the table.
It's fascinating. I'm curious if you feel like the sound is more important or the vibration, especially having a child who has hearing impairment. Do you feel like the vibrations is really where a lot of that healing and that rebalancing comes from? Or do you think that it's a combination of that and the sound?
It's a combination. It's vibrational healing. Healing cellular level. The vibrations go deep inside your body. And these instruments, and this is thousands of years old technology. My teacher shared with me that the music system originated from these bowls, the playing of these bowls thousands of years ago. It starts with the vibrations to learn or just know how to get into the body and say shake things up, basically what's happening, and redistributing the energy and allowing our body to release the energy. The energy comes out of your body as a sound, usually, if you're on the table. Laughing, crying, sneezing, whatever it may be. I always instruct a client to let it go. Don't hold it in, because you want to let the energy go. That's the first thing. The second thing, I play all different kinds of instruments. So, for example, those are shell chimes, the Brazilian nut, that everyone loves those chimes. That's incorporated. Not the same time as the bowls. I play a bowl sequence and then I pause and do something like that. Everyone loves those chimes. And they're twinkly sound, right? They're light, like airy, they're magical. No one knows what they look like. Everyone's eyes are closed. I give them cloths to cover their eyes. Everyone always comes out of the bath or the session like, what was that sound? People connect both ways. So the bowls are more going to go deep level, and the other sounds are more of a peaceful, pretty, enjoyable experience. And a lot of the other sounds are more nature-based. For example, that's a rain stick, and everyone loves the rain stick as well. Everyone connects. A lot of people like water. Our body is 70% water. Water is fluid. Go with the flow. It's healing. It's soothing. A lot of people utilize water as a way for relaxation. Singing from an ocean. People say it's my happy place, calmness. I utilize that kind of sound as well to bring them back. Sometimes they get memories of them at ocean or at whatever. They can bring up good memories, or they can bring up not so great memories. The reason I know that is people's facial expressions could change. I do a lot of work at a senior center near my house. I go twice a month. I love it. One time I brought an ocean drum, and the man I got to know, he had a face. It was a very uncomfortable face. Afterwards, they what's up? And it reminded him when he was younger, he almost drowned. The sound of the ocean almost drowned. That memory is still, that tragic moment was still in him because it's obviously a massive thing he experienced. So that sound brought it up, but it brought it up because it wasn't healed. These sounds bring up things that are deep in our subconscious that we need to pay attention to. A lot of times we're so busy, we want to push it away. We don't want to pretend it's not happening. Every time that you are exposed to the same trigger, the same pain happens. I utilize these sounds as a way to help people release, but also a big part of what I do is a spiritual therapist, basically. I'm talking very deeply about my life and then their life and the correlations. I give people courage, understanding. We get very vulnerable. I'm very vulnerable. I've led a very interesting path I'm very grateful for. And I show people that I'm leading a really difficult path and I'm doing it well. And other people too. It's a lot of that. A lot of people trying to pretend things aren't happening in their world. And they meet me and they feel comfortable opening up. And guess what? Once they open up, they get better and they help themselves. I'm just doing the tools and I'm sharing. But all the healing is done internally by that person. There's no magic pill. I share, I communicate, I share techniques, breathing techniques, do this on your own, do a mantra on your own. You don't know what people do on their own, but it's own personal free will, right? It's all an internal job. And that point gets across as well in my sessions. That way people know that they can go home and do stuff similarly.
So, Lisa, you spoke a lot about stuck emotions in the body and how you use the frequency of sound to help release those emotions. I think that's really interesting, especially because we live in a culture where we're very rigid with our emotion. We're not necessarily allowed to express all the emotions on a spectrum. We like to have emotions put into little groups of good emotions and bad emotions, and emotions we're allowed to express and ones we're not allowed to express. Have you seen any sort of pattern of certain emotions that tend to come up and be released as you work with people, or as you've seen the whole gamut?
I'm seeing a lot of stress, anxiety. That's a given in this area. I was just dealing earlier with grief and sadness. I had 2 women who came through, did a retreat. We both have grief for different reasons. So I worked on that area. For that particular, just to share what that looks like, it's a lot of concentration on the heart chakra and the solar plexus. Heart is our 4th chakra, and the solar plexus is the stomach area, the 3rd chakra area. It's bringing the bowls back and forth. So strengthening the solar plexus with the heart bowl, and then strengthening the heart with the solar plexus bowl, because we want to strengthen the heart and strengthen the solar plexus. That was what I did earlier today. I'm also, because I am a divorced woman, I'm leading a path that took a lot of courage and strength to leave my comfortable existence and live a path that was unknown. I talk about this in my book. I'm attracting other women who may want to get divorced, are divorced, don't even know they have to get divorced. That's a given. I'm attracting that kind of energy. And I'm attracting overall people who know something is not wrong, but know something the way they're living is not right. They come into my studio and they just feel lighter or comforting, and in a whole different way I handle the world in this little studio. That is comforting to them because my energy gets exposed to them, and then that goes with them. That's a lot of what my practice has been now, but you never know who's going to come through for help.
When you talked about that gentleman who had some trauma around the sound with the ocean, have you experienced a lot of different people who had traumas that are triggered with sound? If you have, is there another approach that you use to help them resolve that trauma and to resolve some of those triggers that may pop up in their everyday life?
We haven't gotten that depth full yet. Basically, the one man was at a senior home, and so we just talked about it. He was living at a home that was with other people who are widows. We shared it with the group. And I don't know if he felt resolved after that. I don't know. But I do know that talking about traumas brings them to light, and it helps us to accept that they're there. It helps us to acknowledge it. Once we acknowledge it, then we say, hey, I see you, but we allow it to come to life, have a seat at the table, and we try to process and realize that pain is from this experience. And then it shouldn't have bothered you as much. That's really what it is, having the acceptance. Other people who come through, some people don't know what to expect. It's a lot at times, the sound, because it can bring through spirits. It can bring through emotions or experiences that that they didn't remember. So sometimes people discuss afterwards and sometimes they don't. So it's a give and take. And so that's basically what that looks like.
When you were talking, it reminded me of one of the Yoga Sutras that we were taught in Kundalini Yoga, and that is there's a way through every block. When it comes to triggers, you hear a lot of people wanting to say, oh, trigger warning and all this other stuff. But from what I read, a lot of science behind it was a trigger warning doesn't necessarily decrease you being triggered. But when we are triggered, you don't have an option to go around it. You don't always have an option to try to go above, around it, ignore it. I think the trigger is actually a sign of something that you need to work through. Like I can put it nicely, the first thing we need to do is acknowledge it. To acknowledge that trigger is there, acknowledge that something activated something in you, and then dive deeper to what that can be. Without that awareness, you're not able to really go through it.
I agree. It's acceptance. It's acceptance. We talked earlier about the different vibrations or the higher vibrations that connect with our upper chakras, the love, the joy, connection with the divine, right? Kindness, compassion, gratitude. We want to stay there. We want to be there, but we can't ignore the lower vibrations of the anger, the fear, the sadness, etc. They all exist. We're not always 100% on a higher vibration, but the goal of doing the spiritual work is to acknowledge and accept all the emotions in the gamut. And by us having a regular practice that we know how to handle ourselves, to protect ourselves, to heal ourselves is what gets us from the lower vibration up to the higher vibration quicker. Those are some of the messaging that I share here, and say you have to accept. You can't pretend it's not happening, because then you're lying to yourself. You want to always be truthful to yourself. And deal with it. There's a way to do it. There's a way out of every block. So we first started this question. There is a way out of everything. It's just being open-minded. Also, Trish, a lot, right? For me personally, when I'm still, it helps myself more to understand, all right, this is happening to me. How do I get through this? The answers are there, but being in a positive, higher vibration and calmness allows them to come through. I have a quote upstairs about calm your mind and your soul will speak. I consciously remember that because when we are stressed out on our plate, whatever you want to call it, we're confused. The water's murky, dark. But when you allow yourself to be still and you allow yourself to breathe through it and recognize that this is just happening, we'll figure it out, then things get clearer. And then once your things are clear, then the path opens. And the path opens with the answer to that block.
I think that what you said about how there's a way through every blockage is so hopeful, especially for people who have had trauma in their life and are essentially just trying to work through it and just trying to live their regular life, but not necessarily knowing what tools that they have available to them to help resolve those blockages. I think that sound healing is one of those tools that people may not be very familiar with in a way or a resource that they could utilize to help free themselves from the chains of some of those memories or those traumatic events that have happened in their life. I'm very curious about, I've been through combat and there are certain sounds that do trigger me personally, not necessarily to the point where I'm incapacitated, but my heart rate certainly speeds up a little bit when I hear helicopters. It brings me back to certain places and certain environments, not necessarily even really bad events, but it does raise my heart rate and brings me back to different places. To me, that is a sign that there is still some things for me to work through in that regard. Wondering if sound healing is just another avenue to explore to work through those sounds specifically, or if it's really just based on those energy centers that you talked about earlier.
It's a combination. So I have called ancient protocols, how I play the bowls and the pattern. I believe there is one for post-traumatic stress syndrome, which I believe would be similar to the combat that we could just try. You just would have to try. And to your point of this awareness to avenues of healing. People know about therapy, mental therapy, right? And there's for sure a mental therapist that could help with the work or your previous work and those experiences. Then there's spiritual work. Stuff that Trish and I are doing and learned about Kundalini and learned about these different Kriyas to help us serve purpose from the body, to move the energy and to release the energy. So they're complementary, what I do. And then the Kundalini just on a different level, a variety of how you're doing it. You like the gong. So the gong, I have these gongs behind me. I'll play a gong just because I'm here. It's a massive wave energy flows through people. In Kundalini, the gong is used at the end or close to the end to help move whatever they get moved during the yoga practice, the postures. I do it similarly in my practice too. I do the gong at the end and it's a different rush of energy. So I honestly believe that people need to try a variety of things to find the healing they're looking for and experiment and ask the right questions and be open. But healing is also not a one-time thing. It's once you're exposed, you can't ever turn it off. So everyday healing, going through the process because you want to feel better. You want to live a certain life. Once you've experienced, Trish and I were very deeply in these yoga trainings together, these weekends, 3-day weekends, and they're great. They were wonderful experiences. And then you have to integrate into the real world again. How do you do that? Spend 3 days all day long and love and light and chanting and wearing white and do all this great stuff together. And then you got back to the real world. So you have to learn how to integrate healing work into the day-to-day and make sure you still maintain your own truth and still also make sure that you protect yourself from whatever comes your way. Because that's what it is. Life happens to all of us. And are we going to crumble when something bad happens? Or are we going to be strong and we're going to survive? The healing modalities help to protect us, how we respond, how we allow things to affect us.
I just wanted to touch on when you talked about we have to experiment and see what works for us. When I start to think about it, I feel like when we're experimenting, it's also us learning to listen and to trust ourselves. We've all experienced different forms and types of trauma. And I think a lot of that has created a disconnection with the relationship with ourselves. And a big part of that healing journey is redeveloping that relationship with self. So when we talk about experimenting and trying different things, yes, you're trying to find what connects and works best. I think just going through that process, you're learning, oh, what is that yes feeling in my body? What is intriguing me? And am I taking that step to try it and starting to build that internal trust with myself? All those steps that we take for healing is also redeveloping that relationship with self. And I'm saying this because I think a lot of times people think the process can be very haphazard, like you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. And you may feel that way. But I think, as you said before, Lisa, there are no coincidences. Some of those things that maybe did not work in your thought process, I guess I would always give the question of just because it didn't give the outcome that you desired at the time that you desired it, does that really mean it wasn't effective? It may not have been effective for the purpose that you desired. It may have been effective for a whole other purpose. I was curious if you've seen that with any of your clients that have been coming to you either routinely or maybe just once and how it's connected with the journey.
So are you asking about clients who are, what is your sugar question?
The clients who are figuring out how best for them to heal. Are they all coming with, my goal is to clear this? Or are some of them very much like,
they don't know why they don't know why.
Learn and figure this out.
A lot of people don't know why they're there, but I know why they're there. Just once they speak and I read their energy and I feel their energy, I know. A lot of times people will connect with me in a group session and then want to go deeper with the private session and know that they felt good in the group session and want to experience more. I honestly don't believe, Trish, that people are living their truth. Very few people who have the courage and confidence to do that. It's scary being different. It's scary being authentically you for some people. People may need to baby step into it. I never force anything. I just allow what it's meant to be, to be. When allow whoever comes through, you meet people where they are. I talk about this in my book. I can't expect everyone to have the same viewpoint or as me or understanding as me. And so I have to make sure that I'm consciously aware of who I'm speaking to and who I'm working with. There's some concepts everyone can't handle off the bat. So I have to be aware of that as well. Maybe step into it and realizing that I learned a lot in my journey in this past couple of years and on the little piece of information if necessary to help and heal people. So that's something else that I'm aware of. The foundation is always love. My spiritual name is Prem Livjot, goddess who utilizes God's divine love and light as her one pointed devotion. I do that. I am that. I've been that before that name was gifted to me. That is the energy that you see when you're in here, because in the day, it's all here. Feel that for me is my first goal.
Lisa, thank you so much for your time today. Are there ways that you would advise folks to start bringing in some of that healing practices into your daily life? while you're on the move and on the go to help ground yourself and keep your chakras aligned?
Sure. In my book, I talk about how to have a daily healing practice. A lot of it is through a couple different ways, having reflections, journaling, and reflecting on questions that may be going on in your world. In the book, I propose questions. And I have a plan of ways you can move your body with some light yoga postures and some breathing techniques, mantra meditation, and sound healing. There are recordings in my book and you have access to on my website that I share those techniques. And it's something done like in 20 minutes. So it doesn't have to be a 2-hour experience. The reality is no one has that time every day. Maybe on the weekend you do have time. So just doing a little bit of something is more beneficial than not doing it all. Even just doing a simple breathing exercise, sitting quietly, closing your eye, allowing no distractions, and focusing on your breath. There's other apps you can do as well. I have instructions in my book and some videos of how to do some different breathing techniques that can help you in different situations. Personally, that's probably the easiest way, the breathing, because you can do it anywhere, car, airplane, business meeting. And as far as the yoga goes, so yoga postures, it's just moving energy. So simple postures like a neck roll or shoulder roll or cat-cow, that could be done. And these are all videos I have on my website. When energy is stagnant, that's when we feel like a lower vibration. As far as meditations go, I like mantra meditations. That's chanting a particular verse over and over again becomes consciousness. I chant for myself. I chant for you. I chant for community, universe, and it's raising vibration. There are so many different mantras. And my next book is about mantras. My whole book is a mantra. I Am Light is a whole mantra. It's in itself. That's something that people can utilize. There's so many different facets, and knowing what you gravitate towards and what you're going to do consistently is what works for you. But every day can be different depending on your situation. So having in your toolbox a variety of things that you can do for a particular situation is helpful. I'm happy to connect with people and share that with them. And on my social media, I share a lot of different techniques. The bottom line is recognizing that it's okay to not have it all figured out and to know that you need some extra healing to help yourself. There's ways to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Your book is called I Am Light. Where can people buy that?
It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. We're all bookstores. It's actually on the shelves of Barnes & Noble. It's really exciting. Or you can get a Barnes & Noble online. Yeah. And it's something that it was my spiritual awakening journey, a book I wrote that was for my children to learn the truth about life. It was written during a very difficult time. I changed the energy around in my world to something positive. I utilize that in my work here. I talk about passages from the book. I refer to them based on what people are going through to help give them their own guidance and deep reflections.
Great. And you're working on another book as well?
Yeah. The next book, I am looking at healing mantra work. Books. I connect with mantras. It's about mantras and prayers. It's more of a tool that people can look up in an index of what's going on in my world today, what kind of mantras can help me, and some other personal reflections deep inside of that as well. Because that's my first book was about my flair of who I am, my personalities. The second book that I'm working on because I really connected with mantras at different parts of my life and they've helped me. I have a couple of future books going on, but not as described right now. I found this natural act of writing to be very healing and therapeutic to me. I talk about that and I share that with anyone who comes in contact with me.
Great. Where can people find you on social media?
I am on Instagram. It's my name, Lisa Annese, LisaAnnese. I'm also on Facebook, the same name. And my website is my name as well.
Okay. We will make sure that we put those links in our show notes so that people can find you and they can work with you directly.
Thank
you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure. I've learned so much from you and wish you all the best.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. Want to learn more about a specific topic? Drop us a line on our website and we can explore it deeper with you.